What's up guys, welcome to the Reels Eye. Please welcome to reaction to 3 animated horror stories. Now, I know I'm watching this in like April, but it's not really Halloween, but I just wanted to react because I've seen lots of people react to this stuff and I was thinking, when is it my turn? So, we have a 23-minute video we're going to react to and share our thoughts on how scary this actually is. So, without further ado, let's go react to some horror stories. Story 1.
Last year, on April Fool's Day, I planned to prank our parents. I'm Noah, and this is my story. My parents were going to stay home all day as it was the weekend.
Why do you look like that?
Sneak out in the evening, leaving a ransom note behind. I know, it was kind of stupid, but for an 11-year-old, I knew they would go frantic. I was going to wait at the next block for an hour until I see cop cars rushing to our house. They would call 911. So, around 7, when my mom called me for dinner from downstairs, I started climbing down the window with my backpack. My dad was showering, so everything was a free pass. Great timing, right? Once I ended up in the backyard, I heard my mom call again.
Noah, are you coming or not?
I jumped the fence when she started walking upstairs. In the next 5 minutes,
I forgot,
I
what
was
was this kid
halfway
trying to
ahead.
do?
Cars drove past me as I went by the sidewalk. I stopped near a bench. It was time to wait now. I sat down to eat a sandwich I brought. I was totally into the food when I saw a black minivan parked on the other side of the road.
Yeah, that's when you know, you're in a bad spot.
Inside. I shrugged it off. After waiting for an hour, I started to get restless. What was wrong? Why haven't they called the cops yet? Even if they see it as a prank, they will definitely be worried about their 11-year-old son roaming the streets at night. Fine, screw it. I'm going home. I got up. I rushed home and took a deep breath seeing the porch light on. Maybe they don't know it. Or maybe they're waiting for me to come back. I pushed the door and found it open. The dimly lit hallway stood on the other side. I stepped in.
Noah.
Yeah, I'd say just run out of the house because that house is no longer safe for you at the moment.
To the right. It's the way to our basement. I saw my mom. She was peeing from behind the basement door. Her eyes were calm, but she had a pale face, like she was scared but pretending not to be. She made this hand gesture calling me toward her. I didn't understand, so I just stood there confused. That's when I heard footsteps in my room upstairs.
Noah, there's a bad man in the house. Come here, quickly.
I finally realized there was an intruder in our house. I tiptoed to my mom.
Why would you walk towards it?
In her arms and without making any sound, locked the basement door. Mom, what's going on? Where's Dad? I'm down here, kiddo. Everything's fine. Mom, I want to see Dad. No, you don't need to come down here. Stay with your mom. Just do what she says. You'll be fine. I promise. I was on the verge of crying. We were in danger. My mom wiped my tears. Her hands were so cold from fear as well.
You are my brave boy. No need to cry. You see that window up there?
I turned around my head. There was a small window that opened in our backyard.
Good boy. Now, I'm going to lift you, and you will get out and go straight to our neighbors, okay?
But Mom, what about you and Dad?
You will get us help. Tell Mrs. Kinski to call 911. Can you do that?
I looked into her eyes. They were still calm, but now she had a weird smile on her face. The pale moonlight made her blue eyes look bigger. She was staring down at me with so much kindness in her heart. I nodded my head. Yeah, I can do that.
Very good. Come here. Don't make any noise, okay?
Okay. Dad, I'm gonna get some help for you guys. Bravo, bud. I'm so proud of you. I gathered all my courage and asked my mom to lift me to the window. She grabbed me by the waist, but it was so uncanny, I didn't feel the touch of her hand. It was me floating up in the air. Once I reached the level, I pushed the window and crawled out. I turned back to look, but my mom was gone. I was just staring into the dark basement. I ran to our neighbors. Miss Kinski opened the door after the 4th bell. She took me in and I was crying and panting. I told her how I was trying to April Fool my parents and left. But when I came back, I saw and heard someone's footsteps upstairs.
How does he move like that when
My mom and
talking?
Dad are still in the house, and I need her to call 911. Kinski did that right away. In the next few minutes, I heard the cop cars approaching. I opened her door, waiting for my parents to come back. There were 2 cop cars outside, and the policemen
Those are
were
the people from
ravaging
Free
the
Guy.
house. I even heard gunshots. A few minutes later, another siren started approaching our house. It was the ambulance. The cops came out holding a man, handcuffed. He was bleeding from his shoulder, which explained the gunshots. This was the intruder. I thank God for him getting caught. Finally, my parents can come out now. I watched with enthusiasm and hope. All the policemen came out. Nobody said a single word. They all just looked at each other, and then 4 more policemen came out with 2 stretchers. There were black plastic bags on them. The guys from the ambulance took them in. That's when my eyes moved to the left corner of the street. Under the lamppost, 2 people were standing, a man and a woman. They had blood
Wait, what?
all over their body. The woman had a knife gutted into her stomach, and the man had no brain. A cold shiver ran down my spine. They were none other than my mom and dad. They had 6 smiles on their faces. They slowly raised their arms and waved at me, retaining their smile, and disappeared into the thin air.
So did they die by the killer?
I snapped back to reality, hearing the policeman's voice. He hugged me and said, "I need to stay with my grandparents for a few days." I asked him why, but he just asked another cop to escort me to the police van. I came to know later that on the night of the 1st of April, a man with the intention of robbery came to our house. He succeeded to get in from my bedroom window, which I left open on my way to sneaking out. As he stepped in from the window, he got face to face with my mom, reading my ransom letter. My mom tried to scream, and the robber stabbed her to shut her mouth. Her body was found on my bed. Once the robber managed to come down the stairs, he saw my dad walking up the basement stairs. Before he could step out into the living room, he took out his gun and bashed his brains out,
Yeah, that's
making
not a
him
good way to
fall
die.
back on the basement floor. The wall of our basement was spray printed by his remains. I never told anyone that even after being dead hours back, my parents' spirits stayed back waiting for me. They knew I wouldn't make it on my own, so they guided me like my angels and helped me save my life. Sometimes, at night, I wake up hearing my mom calling me from
Oh,
the
this is him when
closet
he's older.
door.
Noah, Noah.
How far can I go with
So
a
easy.
prank? Having been an amateur prankster, I always asked myself this question. I would always try to take my pranks a little further and make excuses that the other person didn't have my sense of humor. I usually felt foul of this, but I didn't care. As long as it was funny to me,
He dressed up
I
as
would
Pennywise?
go along with the joke.
To
But
scare his
one
friends?
day, making jokes caught the attention of the wrong people, and after what happened that night, I decided to retire from jokes for good. That day, I realized what happens when you prank the wrong person. It all started one night in March. My best friend and I had a YouTube channel where we used to prank people on the street at night. The prank
Nice.
was pretty simple. We would wait for someone to pass by the park at night, and while Ethan was filming, I would come out of a bush disguised as a monster and give them the scare of their life. Some would take it with humor, some would get angry, and some, terrified, would run away. These last ones were the ones we knew in the final recording of the video, as they were undoubtedly the funniest. It was a
Nice
slow
hair,
day.
dude.
People were not showing up, so we agreed that for the first few that did come, I should give them the scare of their lives. We waited a little longer. When a couple finally showed up, I knew I had it easy. Surely both would run desperately. Maybe even the man would leave the couple behind, and everything would be filmed. It was going to be fantastic. When he comes out dressed as a clown, I was prepared for the screams, but they never came. Instead, the man rammed me with all his might, and while he held me down, the couple put a plastic bag over my head and tied my hands. I heard new voices of men running in my direction and covering me. I also heard Ethan screaming in the back. Were they doing something to him too? A few seconds later, I heard 2 men's voices near me. Both of them were lifting me up. I tried to use all my strength to pull myself up, but it was impossible. Both people left me in the back of a car, and shortly after I heard the trunk close, the car accelerated. The trip was long
E5234 is
and
the car plate
arduous.
number.
I tried to kick, I tried to scream, but I gave up in despair and I cried. Nothing had worked. After several minutes of driving, I
How is
recognized
this a
that we
prank?
arrived at a house, and the men transported me again. This time, they were coming down a staircase, and I instantly knew they were dropping me off in a basement. When we arrived, they carefully set me down on the floor and took my bag from me. Please, let me go. I didn't even see your faces. Please, I don't want to die. My family has no money to pay a ransom. That's very rude. Look at us. We don't have any plans to let you go away. What? What will you do with me? Don't be impatient. You'll know soon enough. Once this was said, they turned off the lights and left the basement, leaving me all alone, plunged into extreme darkness. After several hours, I was able to fall asleep. As I fell asleep, I
don't know
dreamed
how
of
you
my
would fall
family,
asleep in
my
that
pets,
place.
and my friends. Poor Ethan. He was probably going through what I was going through, and it was all my fault. This was my idea. I cried inconsolably all night until I fell asleep again. When I woke up, the lights were on again. In front of me were the two men who had brought me in, but there were also two new faces. One of them was a huge, curly, tall man. The man was wearing a leather face mask, the killer from the classic horror movie who uses a chainsaw, which from what I could see, he also had on hand. But the one who caught my attention the most was the man who, tied up, was next to him. Ethan? Mark, I'm scared. I don't want to die. Stay calm, we'll be fine. Someone will come rescue us. Mark, I think I'm gonna die. Don't say that. You know how your mom is. She's probably worried sick, calling all the cops in the area. They'll come to rescue us, just because they can't stand her. I'm scared. Ethan, I'm sorry about this. This was all my fault. No, it was their fault. They kidnapped us. They brought us here. Don't ever feel guilty for something you didn't do. Well, guys, as entertaining as this
Yeah,
has
I
been,
don't know
we
why you're telling your
also
friends
have
don't
our
die.
own
It's quite
audience
clear he's going to die.
Bubba, do it. After the order, the tall man grabbed Ethan and placed him inside the locker. After closing it, he turned on the chainsaw and without much effort began to cut through the locker with his saw. Ethan, no! Oh my god, your reaction. Priceless. You're sick! Your turn, little Mark. Between several men, they lifted me up and put me on top of a table. It was full of different knives, one bigger than the next.
Yeah, you said you weren't going to
know,
die.
We'll take
I
our time with you.
disagree with
Since
that.
there's no one to react to your death, you will do it. You, with your own eyes, are going to see how we take out your organs before you die. You will react to your own death. Isn't it fantastic? Why are you doing this to me? Because you love to play with other people's reactions. You're a prankster. So are we, in our own way. This isn't a joke. This is murder. Oh? I think you just don't understand our sense of humor. Having said that, the man raised one of the knives and started to slowly bring it closer to me. I was surrendered to what the man would do to me. I could only cry and wait for my death. Hey, Mark. It's just a prank, bro. What? At that instant, everyone in the room started laughing frantically. The man in the leather face mask took off his mask and laughed too. The locker where Ethan had died suddenly opened, and with a splinter of laughter, my friend walked out unharmed. As I paid attention,
Yeah, this
I
is such
realized
a
that it
this is
was
a
not
prank
locker,
to the next
it
level.
was a door. Relax, my friend. We're pranksters, just like you. In this channel, we're in charge of teaching a lesson to the people who make bad jokes, and you were the perfect target. I'm sorry, dude. When they contacted me and told me everything, I couldn't just say no. The idea was phenomenal. Your parents, your siblings, and all your friends also know about this, and they agreed. It seems that they all thought you needed a lesson. No. Hey, dude, are you okay? No, this is not a joke. I'm sure they're still torturing me. Hey, calm down, Mark. It's over. You're safe. No! You're not Ethan. They're torturing me, but I will not be fooled. Blinded by anger and still very confused, I grabbed one of the knives next to me and stabbed the kidnapper. The laughter in the room faded away. Everyone was shocked. I want to go home. 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 No, Mark! What have you done? At that moment, I don't remember anything else about the situation. Only that when I heard Ethan, I rushed to him and stabbed him too. After that, it was all screams. Everyone who was there started running. I stabbed one or two more.
Man is good on the
rest
killing spree.
ran away. Everything that happened at that moment is really very confusing. And after that, I don't remember anything. It's like I had a blackout. After that, the police caught me, and sometime later, I ended up here. A lot of people think I'm here because I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but I'm going to recover. Ethan will soon come and tell them it was all a joke. I'm sure those knives were fake, the blood was fake, and it was all part of their joke. I'm sure they planned it too. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything. I am the victim. You will see. Soon they will come to tell me that it was all a joke. I've always loved pranks. When it came to April Fool's Day, I'm the best there is.
Why is
I've
this all
pranked
based on
my
April
mom,
Fools?
my dad, my friends, and even my teachers. This year, I want to take it to the next level. I started planning my pranks weeks in advance. I set up fake cameras in the hallways, placed creepy dolls around the school, and started a rumor about an escaped serial killer. I first started the rumor by talking to my best friend, Mary. Hey, do you want to help me with a prank?
Why does
Sure.
everyone look so
What are you thinking?
weird in this?
I'm thinking
The
we
way they
start a
animated
rumor
the
about an
characters.
escaped serial killer. I know you talk to basically everyone in the school, so if you can spread the word, it'll be even more believable.
Okay, that sounds like fun. But what if people actually believe it?
That's the whole point. The more believable it is, the better. Mary was on board, and together we started spreading the rumor. We told anyone who would listen that there was an escaped serial killer on the loose and that they should be careful. We even made up a few details about the killer, like what they looked like and where they were last seen. By the time April 1st rolled around, the whole school was in a state of fear. And then it was almost time for the big reveal. I snuck a scary costume into school, my heart racing in anticipation. This was going to be the best prank ever. As I snuck out of class, my excuse that I had to use the bathroom, I put on the costume. I made sure that the hood covered my face and that my voice was disguised. Then I went to the
Why do you disguise
library,
your voice?
where
Just
I
make
knew
it deeper or
everyone
something?
would be during lunch. As I walked to the library, though, I heard an alarm, my heart leaping into my chest with excitement. Mary had probably set off the alarm as an extra treat. I burst into the library, my hands above my head. I'm the killer! I'm the killer! But nobody was in the library. I stood there, confused, as I looked around, trying to figure out where everybody had gone. And then I heard a voice behind me, a panicked, frightened scream that curdled my blood.
Robert! Robert, run!
I turned and saw Mary running towards me, her face pale and her eyes wide with terror. What's going on?
Just run, Robert! She's right behind me! The killer!
As I turned, I saw a woman behind me, a tall woman
That
with
doesn't look
black
like a
hair
killer, it's
and
like a
one eye
zombie.
scratched completely out. Blood ran from her mouth, dripping down her chin and giving her a haunted appearance. Her visible eye was sunken and had the appearance of being deep inside her skull, but she was smiling a wide grin that showed off her blood-stained teeth. I began to laugh and turned to Mary, who was cowering behind me and tugging on my arm. Oh, come on, Mary. You didn't really think I'd fall for a prank.
It's not a prank, Robert!
Come on, we had the perfect prank. Why did you have to go behind my back and try to prank me? But as I looked at Mary's face, I realized that she wasn't joking. She was genuinely terrified. And then I heard the sound of heavy footsteps behind me. getting closer and closer. I turned around and saw the woman again, her grin widening as she raised a blood-stained hand. I backed up, still thinking that this had to be some type of joke. What the heck? What are you trying to pull? As I did, though, I stumbled and fell over a chair. The woman was on me in an instant. Her hands tightened around my throat. I struggled, trying to push her off me, but she was too strong. She tightened her grip, and I felt the life being squeezed out of me. As my vision started to fade, I saw Mary behind her, a peg raised as she brought it down on the woman's head. I scrambled to my feet, just in time to see the woman spring in what seemed like an instant at Mary, lunging at her and tackling her to the ground. I grabbed a book off a nearby shelf and threw it at the woman's head, but she didn't even flinch. She leaned down and sank her teeth into Mary's neck. Then, I turned and ran. I could hear the woman's laughter echoing behind me as I fled the library, my heart pounding in my chest. I ran through the school, trying to find someone, anyone who could help me.
Where's everyone else? All the students are probably outside of school and you're still inside.
As I ran toward the exit doors, however, I saw a motion out of the corner of my eye, and suddenly found myself tackled to the ground. The woman had found me, and was on top of me in an instant, her bloody face inches from mine. Her insanity was clear in this instant. It's something that you have to experience to truly understand. She lifted her hand, a large knife clutched in her fist. She brought the knife down just as I managed to kick her off me, backing up as I desperately tried to get to my feet. The woman's laughter echoed in my ears as she came at me again, her knife raised. She began to cackle, her laugh growing louder and more maniacal as she bore down on me.
The last one. The last one.
Oh, but you didn't kill any other students, because I'm pretty sure he's still outside.
The woman doesn't answer, only continuing to advance on me with her knife raised. I back up, barely managing to get to my feet, and turned to run as I heard her laughter behind me. I threw myself into the doors, ready to burst into the outside world and escape this monstrosity. But my body came to a stop and I grunted. The doors had been bolted shut from the outside. Turning outside, I saw the woman running towards me, her knife still raised.
Turning outside? What's that even mean?
But my body was frozen in place. I couldn't move, no matter how hard I tried. When she was barely inches away from my face, I managed to dodge, my entire body moving only because of the adrenaline and fear that I felt. I heard a heavy thud as the woman ran headlong into the door, bursting through it into the sunlight outside. Don't move! This is the police! I heard the commotion outside as they tased her repeatedly, finally wrestled her to the ground and put her in handcuffs. I lay there for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest, before finally getting up and going outside. I was surrounded by police officers, all with their guns drawn, and in the middle of them was the woman, her black hair matted with blood, her one eye wide and staring, her grin.
How is this person still alive if they have one eye?
A placid smile spreading over her lips.
The last one. The last one.
I don't know what she meant by that, and I don't think I ever want to find out.
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's quite clear what she means. It means, I'm pretty sure she killed all of her friends, all the students in the school, and I think you're the last one she's going to find and kill you. Yeah, I can see why this is based on April Fools now. Anyway, that was reacting to 3 horror animated stories, and there were definitely some weird ones, like the fact that he went crazy, like a prank, went on a prank, so the guy's like, ultimately gone crazy. But if you want to see more, like and subscribe, and don't notification bell on so you don't miss one of my videos. And for now, maybe lay off the April Fool's pranks from now on.